A deadly strike at sea. Iran is being blamed for a drone attack on an Israeli-run ship off the coast of Oman. That killed 2 men. A grave mistake. That's what Israel's prime minister is calling this latest attack in the war between wars. So what happens next? And what impact will Iran's new president, so-called hangman of Tehran, have on negotiations? Here's Chris Mitchell with more.
Israel says an Iranian suicide drone armed with explosives hit the Mercer Street ship, killing its Romanian captain and a British security officer. An Israeli-owned company manages the vessel, and on Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett warned Iran.
So I state here absolutely. Iran is the one that carried out the attack against the ship. Iran's aggressive behavior is dangerous, not only for Israel, but also harms international interests, the freedom of navigation, and the international trade. The intelligence evidence for this exists, and we expect the international system to make it clear to the Iranian regime that they have made a grave mistake. In any case, we know how to convey the message to Iran in our own way.
In a statement, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken blamed Iran for the attack and stated, "We are working with their partners to consider our next steps and consulting with governments inside the region and beyond on an appropriate response, which will be forthcoming." While Iran denied responsibility, the attack is the latest in a series of strikes at sea between Iran and Israel. In the meantime, Ibrahim Raisi will be sworn in as Iran's new president on Thursday. Called the hangman of Tehran for his involvement in the death of thousands of Iranians, it remains to be seen what impact he will have on negotiations over the renewal of the Iranian nuclear deal. Talks have been suspended for the past 6 weeks. U.S. Secretary Blinken says the delay can't go on forever.
The ball remains in Iran's court, and we will see if they're prepared to make the decisions necessary to come back into compliance. We are committed to diplomacy, but this process cannot go on indefinitely.
And many believe the election of Raisi could mark the beginning of an even more dangerous period between Israel and the Islamic Republic of Iran. Pat?
Chris, tell us about this new president. Why is he considered so dangerous?
Well, Pat, he's called the butcher or the hangman of Tehran for a reason. He's responsible for maybe 3,000, some believe as many as 30,000 deaths in 1988 of political prisoners. He also reflects the supreme leader's stance to take a more hardline approach against the West. A big test, Pat, is coming up to see how he's going to deal with the nuclear talks. He's skeptical of those talks, and he'll have a new negotiating team, and it remains to be seen, how that's going to work out. But, Pat, he's also a firm believer in the return of the Mahdi, the Shiite Messiah, and he says the Mahdi is the savior of mankind, and he's looking for his appearance.
Well, Chris, Iran is increasingly using these drones. What role do these weapons play in this so-called war between wars?
Well, Pat, they're a big part of their conventional arsenal. They have a range sometimes of up to 1,600 kilometers or about 1,000 miles. We were in Saudi Arabia in September of 2019. They call that the Pearl Harbor of drone warfare, where they had multiple drones attacking Saudi Arabia's largest oil refinery. We were there, Pat, to see that. And it's really just one part of a shadow covert war between Iran and Israel right now. As you said, it's called the war between wars. Earlier today, we had a briefing with General Amos Yadlin. He's a retired general, and he said it's really all dimensions. It's on all fronts. It's maritime, it's cyber, terror attacks, Iranian proxies in Iraq and Syria. It's all over the Middle East, Yemen, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon. And so both sides are attacking each other. But so far, both sides don't want a full-scale war. But one day, Pat, it could break out into a war. And we say this a lot, but it's one reason why we believe it's very important to be praying for the peace of Jerusalem.
Chris, thanks for your insights. We appreciate it. Chris Mitchell in Jerusalem.